Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. Well, welcome back, fellas. What a weekend it was. I don't think there was a lot of craziness over the weekend, was there?
No, nothing happened. Just a nice, quiet weekend.
Nobody got slapped.
Nobody. No, well, that was last
Someone
week,
got
I think.
slapped with some new allegations.
Oh, yes,
Ooh.
they did. What happened with that, though? I don't know. I never heard that. I never heard tell of that before.
Yes. So there. Let's just recap what has happened up until this point today, and that is that there was an anonymous source as of last week that went out and reached out to Congress that said that Dan Snyder had two books that he had for the Washington Redskins, and being able to forge ticket sales, right? Visiting ticket sales, that was the biggest thing. And I made the joke, you know, we've all seen the movie Halloween Town on Disney Channel, right? With the
Great movie.
Yeah, the little kid goes, powers? What powers? And you're talking about revenue. What revenue? You know what
Practice.
I'm talking?
We're talking about practice.
Right. So what are you talking about here? And so
Whoever photoshopped that gift today was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
what gift are you talking about, Hall?
It was like Dan Snyder, and it was like allegations. We talking about allegations? What allegations? Like it was like
Yeah,
pretty
it was
much
over AI.
the Allen Iverson, but like the practice rant, but it was like Dan Snyder's face, and it was like allegations.
Yeah, and
Talking about allegations.
And before our guest hops on here very shortly, this is the quote from a Washington Commanders spokesman. Quote, there has been absolutely no withholding of ticket revenue at any time by the Commanders. Those revenues are subject to independent audits by multiple parties. Anyone who offered testimony suggesting a withholding of revenue has committed perjury. Plain and simple. That's strong right there.
Yeah, you start throwing around that word, that'll get people to back off real fast if they don't have any, proof or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because the one thing that I kept saying was, especially with these type of allegations, especially on the financial side, there generally is an easier time to find evidence since there's receipts, right? You're able to go back and track these things. And given the fact that this guy didn't even work in that finance department and didn't offer anything, and all he had was secondhand knowledge of things that he had heard and other stuff. So I thought that was hilarious, to say the least. And I'm glad that the Washington Commanders come out and kind of a threat, not a threatening, but a strong statement to respond. But now we are joined by our guest, Mr. Jordan Asiri. How you doing this evening, Jordan?
Good. How are you, Kyle? Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course, Jordan. And, we got a lot of pressing questions to ask you, sir, Mr. Popular on social media, of course. I got to pick your brain about social media, by the way. Apparently, you're just a magician at it. But
young guru.
After the first wave of free agency, Jordan, did the Commanders get better in your eyes?
Yeah, so obviously when you weigh out players they lost versus players they gained, it would look like they got worse, but I'm of the belief that going from Taylor Heineke to Carson Wentz at quarterback is enough to make the assumption that the team got better.
I would agree there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, losing Brandon Sheriff, of course, is always huge. I mean, anytime you lose somebody that was an all-pro. But at the same time, we also saw our offensive line over the last two seasons when Brandon Sheriff has been in and out of the lineup play very well together. I mean, they didn't really necessarily seem to miss a beat. Of course, the end of the year last year when we were plagued by COVID and injuries, but the starting unit, they didn't do too bad without Brandon Sheriff in there. So it won't be that big of a drop-off. And then, of course, improving the most important position in all of sports at quarterback, that's got to be an improvement.
Yeah, and not even including that, when Brandon Sheriff came back from his injury, that's when that 4-game winning streak happened. So, look, I'm not going to say that Brandon Sheriff isn't a good player or whatever have you, but he can't be replaced. Sorry, Hall.
No, my question was going to be, there's been a lot of smoke around like Ron Rivera's like pretty much in love with Chris Olave. I just want to get what's your take on maybe possibly them drafting Chris Olave at number 11?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% all for them using that pick towards getting another player in this offense, especially at wide receiver, just to like take some of that attention away from Terry McLaurin, because Terry McLaurin's putting up good numbers now, but just imagine having a guy opposite him that can actually draw coverage his way too, so that Terry McLaurin's not, getting 2, sometimes even 3 guys looking at him. His numbers will probably go up.
Yeah, he's
Right.
not like Reed having 2 to 3 guys looking at him at all times. You know what I'm
At
saying?
all times, all day, every day. It's a little annoying. Like, slow down, guys. Stop trying to be the one. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at this team, this defense, really, I mean, last year they took a step back, but we had a question posed to us on Friday, and I thought it was a pretty good question. I mean, when you look at the upcoming schedule, do you think that this defense is going to be closer to the 2020 version, or do you think they're going to recess again back to the 2021 version?
Okay, so if I had to predict, I would say they look more like the 2020 version because the schedule is going to be a little bit more favorable. At least that's how it's projecting right now.
Right.
And also, hopefully, Chase Young can kind of have that kind of breakout season that we've all been waiting for. Like, he's been a good player, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't quite been like that number 2 overall elite status player yet.
Right.
But putting him next to Jonathan Allen, who just is coming off the best year of his career, all-pro caliber season, maybe if we can get that year out of Chase Young, that'll be what it takes to, take that defense up to the next step.
Yeah, Jordan, did you see that Chase Young was at the NASCAR race yesterday in Richmond? Did you see that that leather jacket he on? That thing was clean.
Yeah, that was dope. Yeah.
He's looking good, man. And all the rumors have been that Chase Young has been very open in communication with Rivera and obviously Martin Mayhew as well, and that he will be here back for OTAs and minicamp. And I know that a lot of stir happened last season where I know that they're voluntary, but speaking from a leadership aspect, do you think it's better overall for the football team that Chase Young will be there for the voluntary workouts?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think whether or not he wants to be like that guy, but he's really the leader of the defense and arguably even the team.
Yeah.
So him being there really does set that example to the other guys who are like, okay, if he's here, I should probably be here. And
Right.
I think it's important that he knows going into year 3 that this is going to be the biggest season of his career because he's probably thinking in the back of his head now, like my time to get paid is coming soon. So
Right.
I got to start putting up those numbers.
Yeah, and then as of just like 30 minutes ago to an hour ago, the Philadelphia Eagles made a trade with the Saints in order to exchange picks. So now the Eagles only have 2 first-round picks. They get a first-rounder for next season, and everyone is essentially saying this is like Jalen Hurts' trial, right? If he doesn't do well this season, they have 2 first-rounders next year in order to go get one of those quarterbacks. Have you been hearing anything else? Do you think that maybe this could put Washington in a good position to trade back with somebody like New Orleans who wants to hop up to 11?
Yeah, so I mean, really, it'll mostly depend on what the Panthers and the Falcons want to do at quarterback. Because I feel like the Saints, maybe they made that trade with the idea that they need to leapfrog the Panthers to get a QB they like, whether it's Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. But just in terms of the trade itself, honestly, I got to say that the Eagles are kind of scaring me a little bit with the draft compensation that they have right now.
They have to be able to pick good players with those picks, though, Jordan. Remember that.
But,
Yeah,
well,
of
still,
course. Of course, yeah.
Imagine if this was like the last 2-3 years, those drafts that were so loaded and just loaded with talent. This year, luckily, there's talent to be found. It's not as loaded as some of those other draft classes, but still, that's anytime a team in your division has picks like that, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Hall?
Definitely. Jumping to another team captain. Obviously, everyone's going crazy with the whole, is Terry McLaurin going to get franchise tagged after this year? Is he going to get extended? I know Twitter, and not only Twitter, but the whole DMV would like literally probably just be set on fire if he somehow doesn't get locked up. Do you think they're going to be able to get an extension done this summer for Terry?
Before I answer that, I just have to say, like, definitely put an emphasis on if they were in any way to let Terry McLaurin like leave this team, that would be like the proverbial like nail in the coffin for this fan base. Like, it would be very, very bad. Like, riding in the streets bad. But that's why I think they will get a deal done in the summer, probably after June 1st when that Landon Collins money officially hits. Because once they traded for Carson Wentz, I mean, you're proverbially pushing in all the chips and kind of just saying, okay, this regime is basically going to live or die on Carson Wentz. So you got to do whatever you can to, keep that talent around him. So obviously the first thing would be locking in Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, and
Right.
then one player that left here.
Oh no, it's cool. I didn't want
was
to ask a
was
question.
Landon Collins, Jordan, and obviously he left. He wasn't going to return here, and then he was going to return, and then he rescinded that when they asked him to take another pay cut after the Carson Wentz trade. Do you think that there's any possibility, let's say 0 to 100% chance, that Landon Collins could return to this squad in between now and June 1st, as long as he takes that big pay cut?
Yeah, so I actually talked to him about this not that long ago. He basically told me that there is like a scenario in which he does come back. I can't really give you like a percentage wise on that, and obviously he's probably still, gauging the market, seeing what he could get. But maybe if that number goes down low enough, there is an opportunity for him to come back because he was valuable to the defense last year. Definitely wasn't quite playing to the level of the money they were paying him, but still a valuable player to the defense nonetheless.
Right. Yeah. And that's would be huge. I mean, once he found his position, as we saw, he kind of flourished a little bit over that next half of the season. So this kind of ties in with that. Ron Rivera recently said that the reason that Washington hasn't signed that many players as free agency is because they're waiting until after the draft. They don't want to get tied up, sign somebody, and have somebody that they want there in the draft at the same position, all of a sudden create a log jam or what have you. Do you agree with that approach? It seems like a kind of odd approach for a coach to take.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely stinks from the perspective as a fan. Like you want to see them, sign these players, like try to improve. But if you look at this regime right now and the moves they've made in the past, they've kind of been those bargain bin players, like Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick, even last season, Charles Leno and Bobby McCain. Those dudes came in the summer. Both of those players ended up being valuable starters. So it's not the most normal method, but it has worked for him in the past.
Yeah.
Not only did they contribute a lot, Jordan, they also got new contracts in this offseason as well to come back to the team, to your point there. And then my other question to you, what are your latest rumors that you are hearing regarding Washington? I know that you kind of talked about Terry and everything like that, but in that first round, do you think that there's any other position besides wide receiver that Washington could be heavily targeting?
So obviously, as you said, wide receiver seems to be like the main focal point. I think if one of those defensive guys were there at 11, like maybe Derek Stingley or Kyle Hamilton even, if one of those premier defensive talents were there, it'd be hard to pass on him. But definitely think wide receiver is the move.
And then my other question to you, do you think that there's any chance Washington could trade back with the team if Malik Willis is not on the board there at 11? Because my biggest concern is that we all would like to trade back with the 11th overall pick, but the fact being is there has to be a player there that a team would want to trade up for, especially multiple assets for. Do you think that there is another player out there besides Malik Willis that's capable of doing that?
I mean, you could maybe sell me on a team being really desperate for a QB moving up to get Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
But you definitely hit it on the head. Like a lot of people want to trade back from 11, recoup some of those picks that you lost in the Carson Wentz trade, but there's got to be another team that's willing to play ball.
Right. Unless one of those star defenders falls. But like you said, then at that point, are we going to take a Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley? Unless one of the edge defenders falls a little bit. But still, without Malik, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So looking at the schedule going ahead, we're projected the easiest schedule right now, 32nd in the NFL. And obviously they're going to hopefully add another piece of this offense. Where do you see this? Where do you see them? I know it's really, really super early, but where do you see them shaking out in the NFC East as of right now?
Man, the optimist in me wants to say that they're going to definitely improve on their record from last season. And in terms of the division, I still think it's definitely the Cowboys division to lose, even though I will say they have gotten worse this offseason. But with Dak Prescott at quarterback, he's the best QB in the division. As long as you have a QB like that, you're always going to be in business. With that being said, I do think Washington has a good chance of making the playoffs.
My man, it's speaking to my soul right now, Jordan.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So we touched on it a little bit earlier about how we do feel Washington improved just based off of the Carson Wentz trade alone. And I mean, really, how could you not? But for some people out there who don't necessarily see it yet, how much better is Carson Wentz than Taylor Heineke? And what does he bring to this offense that Taylor Heineke didn't?
The just from Taylor Heineke's arm to Carson Wentz's arm, there's going to be a big difference.
Biggest thing.
Stretching the field vertically is going to be huge. You're probably going to see more deep passes downfield. Hopefully, if Curtis Samuel can stay healthy, I think he could put up numbers, definitely. Yeah. And even Antonio Gibson. Like the pieces are there. It's just they all got to get on the field together. Honestly, QB was like, for me, this roster to me was a QB away. Maybe not from like contending for a Super Bowl, obviously, but they were a QB away from being a good team.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with the right quarterback, I mean, if they would have gotten a Russell Wilson, they could very well be in that Super Bowl conversation. So
you're absolutely right. And now, speaking of the Super Bowl, Jordan, I wanted to ask you a question, like an NFL-based question, not just strictly to the Commanders, but the Rams' strategy of just giving away draft picks after draft picks. Do you think that's going to create a ripple in the NFL with how these teams are putting how much stock into their draft picks?
Honestly, for me, it already has kind of created a ripple effect. Now that the Rams, they've been doing that method for a few years now, basically since Sean McVay got there.
Right.
And now they won a Super Bowl. So teams are probably saying, oh, how can we replicate this? And you already saw the Dolphins, the move they made for Tyreek Hill.
Good point.
Obviously, Denver. I don't really know if the Rams personally affected that, but you're probably going to start seeing a lot more situations where there's like 6+ teams that have 2 first rounders, and then there's like 6+ teams with no first rounders because that's the league now.
Right. Yeah, and you are 100% right though. You do see. I mean, look at all the teams that have multiple first round picks already this year. Like it's a copycat league.
Yep.
And actually, to piggyback off that question, do you want to see Washington kind of just be like take the Rams approach, like F them picks, or do you like the way they're kind of slow building it up and just when they get the quarterback, they should be off to the races?
So if they truly think that Carson Wentz is that guy, then yeah, I think they should be aggressive. Obviously, we all talk about the cap and whether or not like it's like a myth, but at the end of the day, Washington does have to extend multiple players for big money soon. Terry McLaurin, obviously. Then you have Chase Young eventually.
You got Montez Sweat still. Yep.
Deron Payne's due. So a lot of it's going to be dependent on if they can really like maneuver things properly, because I would love to see them, I talked about earlier in the offseason, I wanted them to trade for Amari Cooper, but obviously he's making $20 million a year. I don't know if you can do that and then pay Terry McLaurin and then also pay these other guys. And then you're paying Carson Wentz. So a lot of other teams in the league, they have the benefit of having a quarterback on like a rookie deal. So they have that extra money. Obviously we don't have that benefit at the moment. So it's kind of a tricky situation.
Right. Oh, yeah. And we touched on slightly a little bit earlier, but what is a dark horse need for this team? I mean, obviously we know wide receiver, we know linebacker, but what is a need that you could see this team either addressing in free agency or the draft that not many people may see coming?
I think tight end is probably a big need. Like I like Logan Thomas, but you can't really bank on him coming back off that injury with his age and everything. Like he's still a good player, but I don't think you just assume he's going to come back and just be the tight end 1 again. And I like John Bates, but not enough to commit to him as the tight end 1 in the event that Logan Thomas isn't there.
Right. And you see Carson Wentz's history with tight ends. I mean, it would just make sense in my opinion.
Yep.
I agree with you.
And also Washington was interested they were heavily interested in Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
But for free agency.
Yeah, of course. So he got big money for no reason too to go to Arizona. What it was like $10 million contract or something. Well, of course he played well in Arizona. But it's not like Zach Ertz is creating separation. He's just he just fits their system essentially. But to wrap this up, Jordan, I just want to let you know I think you're doing great, by the way, with everything that's going on right now. But how far will Jameson Williams fall in this draft, do you think? Obviously, the injury, he had the workout video last week showing that he's moving that knee a little bit more. He's going to be picking up running here soon. But arguably, he's the best wide receiver in this draft pre-injuries. So do you think that he is going to go round 1?
I love that you brought him up because he's my wide receiver 1. Okay. If we're just talking pure talent, I think he's the total package. Is he going to go in round 1? Definitely. In terms of where he's going to go, probably somewhere from like the late teens to like the early 20s. I really want Washington to be the team that gets him, but obviously 11, probably a little too early based on where everything is right now. But I think I think the late teens to the early 20s is probably the sweet spot for Jameson.
And then my last question for you, Jordan, before I let you out of here and go enjoy your fantastic Monday night. The rumors about Washington, especially the owner, Dan Snyder. I know we talked a lot of football up to this point, but did you think that this was a smoking gun given the financial implications of this with the NFL? And do you still think that there is a possibility that this could come back and bite him in the butt?
Yeah, so I mean, if they can prove those allegations, if there's any proof whatsoever, I feel like it is the proverbial smoking gun, because once you start bringing like money into the equation and other owners' money, that's when it actually becomes a real problem.
My man, Jordan, my man. And has the Commander's name grown on you ever since the name revealed?
Yeah. I mean, I like it. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's just, can they win games? I've always maintained that. Like, I was going to be fine with whatever the name was, as long as the product on the field is winning.
Dude, my man.
Right.
And the easier schedule, to your point, how you started off this interview by saying that should transition to more wins, I wholeheartedly agree with you, brother. And then before you get out of here, just in case there's anybody watching, I'm very sure there's
doubt
doubt that nobody watching doesn't follow you already on Twitter or social media, Instagram, Facebook. If you just want to plug your handles real quick.
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me at Washington Today. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Washington Today without the letter A in it. And then if you want complete NFL coverage, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JPA Football.
My man, Jordan, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and joining us on such short notice, brother. I appreciate it. Keep up the great work, man. I thought you did great.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course, Jordan. Have a good night, brother.
Have a good one, man.
You guys
Man,
too.
see ya.
I thought he did great.
He did.
You know what?
Yeah.
You learn
That was-
something new every day, because I had no idea he was JPA football.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Dude,
yeah. I
we,
learned that.
we've exchanged that in the group chat. Like, how do you
Yeah,
not
I
know
know.
that by now?
Bruh, I
Hey,
forget
to
about
be
that.
fair, I mean, we don't read everything. You know what I'm saying?
I forget a lot of
but
stuff, man.
also-
I forget a lot of stuff.
Also, though, that was a pretty good, nice nugget of info there about Landon Collins.
Yep. Yes, it
Yeah,
was. And that's
I
why
didn't
I
know
said
that.
something about it last week. You guys thought I was insane for saying it, but I thought that the door was still
No.
somewhat open for Landon, because if nobody's answering the call for Landon, wouldn't you want to go back to somewhere where
Yeah.
you're relative, where you have your boy with Cam Curl? And that's one name that we're not talking about with these future contracts, by the way. Cam Curl's
Yeah.
coming up in his third year.
Yeah.
He's a 7th round
Yes,
pick, so
sir.
he's gonna, that 4th year is gonna be the contract year, right?
Yep.
And I
Coming
can't imagine what kind of toll that's going to take. You know what I mean? But let's get on to our fan questions, and our first one's going to be from none other than the Colonel. And I'm going to start this with you, Reed, because I feel like this is a perfect question for you, sir. It's a very serious
God.
question. We thought we might get a Kyle lookalike with Derek Carr. We did get a Reed lookalike with Carson Wentz.
I'll take that.
Who is Hall's comparison? It ain't Tua.
So, okay, yeah, that's a valid point.
Funny
So if you
story,
go-
because someone literally asked me if I was like South Asian or like Southeast Asian or like something like that.
It's because your eyes are always
Dude,
like,
it's
I
because you
know,
always look
that's
like you're
exactly-
asleep.
yeah,
I know. That's what he said too. He was like, your eyes, man. I don't know.
that is a good one. But honestly, I mean, if we're not talking Jada with the hair, then
That's messed up, dude.
I guess we
you're a bully.
What if Will Smith just slid in screen right now and slapped me?
Right.
But then I
Mention his name 3 times. You appear.
yeah. Oh yeah. Say Jada's name 3 times in a mirror, followed by alopecia, and you will get slapped through the mirror.
Do you guys remember the video from Will Smith, like back in like the late 2000s? Some dude like tried to kiss him on the red carpet and he
Yeah,
slapped
he
that dude.
backhanded him.
He was like-
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just Will Smith's move. is just
He's a
smacking
slapper.
people.
I guess he's a
Yeah.
slapper.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, if I was Will Smith, first of all, I'd just come out and be like, guys, I did that to prove a point that celebrities can get away with anything. Imagine if he did that and he was like, so the tides have turned now, right? Like this is a social experiment. You guys are the bad guys, you know? But yeah, no, who would Hall? I guess, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, it's not like
Call
we
me
can go.
Black Scrubs.
Yeah, it's not like we can go. Yeah. Yeah, I thought we'd be sticking with quarterbacks because if so, I mean, it's kind of limited right now. So like maybe I would say we're not going to take any quarterback from the Giants, but I mean, they did just sign Tyrod Taylor. Shout out to their families for, finally signing a brother. They haven't had a black quarterback or a black head coach
Reed's
ever. A little
funny.
known fact about that. But no, that's tough. I mean, I would have gone with Tua, even though he's a completely different race, just because you guys do look semi-similar. But I don't want to go Cam Newton, I don't want to go Tyrod.
No, if you say Cam Newton, he's gonna puff his chest out after that, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to get
Courtney, you know what Reed said about me today?
I would just say it would
I'm gonna start
be
wearing some crazy ass hats.
yeah, it would be the best friend from Scrubs. Like that's
right.
Yeah, man.
it's perfect. It's a
Dude,
good one.
Kid.
that's so funny that he does look exactly like the dude from Scrubs. That's so funny.
Yeah. And I don't look like Carson Wentz.
It's just because you're white, dude. It's
Yeah,
because you got
super pale.
Yeah, super pale.
I have my beard has a reddish tint, but I'm not a ginger by any means. But I
Not by
accept
anything.
that.
No,
and
but
I
honestly,
accept it.
Colonel, I don't know who Hall really looks like besides Scrubs. I mean, I feel like that's the perfect identical person for Hall.
Yeah.
It's true.
What about you,
Who-
Hall? Have you heard anything else? Anybody say what you look like? Like, does Courtney say you look like Denzel or something?
That's a good one.
I wish. Nah, just black scrubs. Just I get that a lot.
Black Scrubs, that's just what he's known as.
Yeah.
That's
Just Black
so-
Scrubs.
AKA Turk.
And white people are like, what is that? Isn't that a TLC song?
Turkleton.
Got a TLC song. Now, the
what the
next
whites
question
say.
from the Colonel, Hall, keep it with you. Clearly, most questions revolve around what we're doing at number 11. His question is, has there been any progress on our unsigned free agents, specifically DeAndre Carter?
That's a good one. We should have asked Jordan that question. I haven't heard anything recently. I haven't saw anything come across the wire. My guess would be, say they don't address maybe the special teams factor of the team through the draft or something like that. I would assume that they're going to reach out to DeAndre Carter's people, maybe try to bring him in on like a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, something like that for like some minimum money. But yeah, I wouldn't expect anything on DeAndre Carter for this team at least until after the draft.
I'm with you. Now let's move on to our next question. Or sorry, I didn't even answer the question, did I? My goodness, dude, I'm all over the place. I haven't heard anything about DeAndre Carter. I think that's probably one of the reasons why Coach Rivera said that they are going to wait to go back into free agency until after the draft. Specifically talking about, if you re-sign DeAndre Carter, you got to help the amount of wide receivers already on the roster. You got Curtis Samuel, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Adam Humphries, you got Diami Brown, you have Cam Sims, Dax Milne, and then if you re-sign DeAndre Carter, that's already 7 right there. And then if you go into the draft, what if you're in a position to get a quality wide receiver in the first or second round? Are you going to be hesitant to take them because you already re-signed DeAndre Carter? And then you're possibly opening yourself up to some dead money if you had to cut him at any point in time or cut Dax Milne because of it. And so I can understand why Coach Rivera would go down this path of saying, look, we got to wait till after the draft to really go after these free agents because we don't know what's going to happen in the draft just based on how the crop is this year. So I completely understand why Coach Rivera said that. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to kind of understand it, but I understand. I speak Rivera.
Yeah, no. The one thing I did read something about DeAndre Carter, but it was basically saying what you're saying, that we're going to wait a little bit to see. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, and I think that does directly tie in with his comments about free agency. So,
yeah, it does. And now our next question is in our Discord chat server, and this is from our go-to guys. This one's going to be from Jeff Miles. What's your favorite game memory of all time, watching or in person, Reed?
Brother, let me tell you. Favorite game memory of all time. I think we kind of answer. I mean, obviously, the Sean Taylor fumble recovery against the Eagles to kind of seal that playoff run was incredible. Also, I'll just throw it out there. The 2012 run, just that entire run was incredible. That was one of the best offenses I've seen because, I mean, our lifetimes the team has sucked, but it was magical. It was fun. It was a good place to be as a fan, thinking we had a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, guys, but I think it's the Pittsburgh game in 2020. Going up to Pittsburgh on prime time, even though the Steelers don't want to acknowledge and accept the fact that they did get beat in Heinz Field in prime time on national television. I know they like to say they still haven't lost on prime time at home, which is crap. That was absolutely
Who says
amazing.
that? They say that?
Yeah, dude. Remember
They
had,
literally.
they had a primetime game this season at Heinz Field, and they said they've never lost.
Really?
Yes,
They
I'm
were
not-
undefeated when we butt tapped them
Yeah,
with our hands.
I'm telling. That is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Given the fact Alex Smith was at quarterback, they didn't really have much of a chance. We went into it expecting a bloodbath, but myself, I was like, dude, I think they can do it. I think they can do it, and they actually showed the blueprint for the rest of the league on how to beat the Steelers that season, and they never got back to fruition. I think that kind of proved I want this team to get back to that night
Right.
when they beat the Steelers, to say that we have hope for the future, because it almost seems like stagnant at this point where we are now based on how 2021 went.
Right.
But
We treated Ben Roethlisberger the way he treats a woman in a bathroom stall. We just
Right.
completely. That was
go
Um, yeah, I'd probably say it probably has to be the 2012 season, just because. Well, first of all, the excitement I had when we traded up to number 2. I've already told the story. I threw a beer in the air at hard times. Was running around like, we got RG3. We're gonna get RG3. I was like expecting like finally my team is gonna be like one of those teams that's always talked about on like the national TV shows, like First Take and all that. Like we're gonna be relevant again. Like it's gonna be great times. Then we started out 3-7, and then just go on that roller coaster ride the last down the stretch, and just all the hope and all the promise that was ahead for this team. But obviously here we are. 10 years
the
later.
Rob Jackson interception to seal the
Yeah.
playoff win.
that
Or,
home
I'm sorry,
game,
the playoff berth.
that home game and like the last game of the season against Dallas. I mean, come on, like, doesn't even get much better than that.
No, it doesn't. Now let's move on to our Discord chat server for these next questions. Oh, and we already did. 3 keys to a successful season for Washington, Hall.
Number 1 is definitely Carson Wentz's play. Are we going to get 2020 Carson Wentz, or are we going to get 2021, 2019 Carson Wentz? Number 2 would be this defense. Are Montez Sweat and Chase Young and them guys going to have a bounce back year? I think they will because of the schedule. And number 3 would be, I would say, Curtis Samuel being healthy, I think is the big key next year. I definitely think that, like everyone said, if we go wide receiver at 11 and get a playmaker the opposite Terry, a healthy Curtis Samuel, who people forget is a playmaker when healthy, would be the icing on top of this cake for this offense to go with Antonio Gibson and whoever is starting out there at tight end.
The top 3 keys to a successful season. 1, the defense staying healthy. I think that is number 1, the most pivotal part of all of this, because they can fall apart because the lack of depth behind them. We saw obviously they let go of Matt Ioannidis. Obviously Tim Settle left the building as well, and so you're gonna need some depth there. And so if our guys are healthy, I think this team is in a great position to be able to go far this season, be able to put up some wins, and possibly the first winning season under Ron Rivera. Secondly, I think Logan Thomas being healthy for at least 10 games is going to be pivotal. I know that we want a tight end and everything like that in the draft, but just given with how many draft picks that they do have and how much depth they need to be able to put in to this team, I have a hard time seeing tight end being fit in there given when the bullets are flying, unless they find somebody to trade back with and able to recoup some picks. So Logan Thomas is going to be there for 10 games. I think they're going to be straight. And then the third one is Charles Leno. If Leno can stay healthy, because keeping Carson Wentz upright is going to be very, very important. And if Carson Wentz stays healthy, that means Terry McLaurin's going to flourish. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he stays healthy as well. But sorry, Reed, I probably stole a bunch.
I mean, yeah, because there's only so many. I mean, reality health is probably the biggest thing because we've seen this team at full health. They can be very good. Number 2 would be Carson Wentz. In general, like I don't want to put this much on one player's shoulders, but that's why he was brought in here. This is his real last chance to prove he's a starter in the NFL. And he's been handed the keys and he's got to be given a green light to go out there and do his thing. So can he catch on and can he carry this team? He should, like we've talked about. And then 3 is going to be the Jack Del Rio's defense. The same reasons you guys said. Can they revert back to that 2020 form? They have too much talent to play the way that they did last year. They have what should be an easier schedule. It just there's a lot that's on their plate, but I think this team can really turn it around.
Yes, and then this next question in the Discord chat server is from our constant contributor, Big Tony Shivers. And this is a question that gets me a little riled up. It gets me all sauced up, baby. We've heard about Chad Muma from Wyoming. What are your thoughts on Montana State's Troy Anderson?
So first of all, Troy Anderson, absolute stud athletically. He's still got a lot of room to grow. But was easily the most athletic linebacker at the combine this year. And then as we saw at his pro day, he put up numbers at some drills that he didn't do at the combine that would have far and away blown everybody out of water. The guy's a freak of nature. He's still learning the position though. He used to play quarterback. So he's still getting there, but the guy, like Logan Paulson said, my best friend Logan Paulson said when he was on the show, when he saw Troy Anderson, he was just like, that is a big human. That is a huge man. He saw him in real life. He's seen a lot of guys in real life. And Kyle, I think that your Brian Urlacher comparison, you talked about him possibly being a Brian Urlacher type too, right? Like you talk about, and I could completely see that. I mean, just with his build, his athleticism, but he's got to learn the position first. And if we draft him, do you want to have 3 young players at linebacker right now? And he's somebody who's still learning. But if you can get him and you can kind of get him rolling and not put too much on his plate right away, I think you can have yourselves a hell of a player.
Yeah, and this is from Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl, obviously director. Everyone knows Jim Nagy. Troy Anderson was the fastest linebacker at the combine, running a 4.42 official 40. And today he did not run these tests at the combine, but he ran a 3.99 short shuttle and then a 6.72 3-cone drill at his pro day. And obviously this is faster than any linebacker at Indy, which goes to show you about Troy Anderson. And Brian Urlacher, not that many people remember, at Arizona, he came in as a safety. They transitioned him to linebacker. So you have a lot of comparisons there based on the body type. And obviously Troy Anderson is kind of like the skinnier guy, and he played running back and quarterback, right? He's not like a diesel dude out there. He's not like Frank Harris or anything, but Franco Harris. But he could put on weight. And I really like Troy Anderson just given the athletic ability. I think he has natural instincts. I talk about Jamin Davis kind of lacking those natural instincts at the closer line of scrimmage. It comes easily for Troy Anderson. That's why I think that he could be a good fit. But like Reed said, the biggest concern I have with Troy Anderson is plugging him in right away. Because is he going to be ready from a Montana State defense going against that level of competition to the pros? I mean, that's not, there's no comparison there. You're going into a whole different realm. But I would trust obviously their leadership to be able to get him up and ready and going to go. Because I do think that he would be good for depth-wise. Because we talked about before, how often are you going to be really having 3 linebackers on this defense on the field? Generally, teams are going to want to spread you out, get you thin, so you're going to have more DBs on the field anyway. But as a depth guy, I would absolutely love Troy Anderson. He's one of my favorite prospects in this draft, Tony Shivers.
Most guys want to do that to me too. Just spread me out, get me thin. I like the comment section at YouTube when I say something like that. Like when I said somebody was thick on the Cam Curl episode.
Oh yeah,
this man said what?
If only you knew, dude. If only you knew.
Oh man, the car wired up the training camp from home.
Oh no, that was ridiculous. How many Bigfoot jokes that we had?
Oh man,
still didn't let it go. What do you think of Troy Anderson, Hall?
Oh yeah, like you said, guy said, great prospect. The only thing about which it would have helped if we had a true veteran linebacker in the room, like instead of like a couple young guys, but definitely would have been felt a lot better and better about drafting him a little bit early, because like you said, he can kind of sit, be a spot guy, maybe come in on certain packages, but like you guys pretty much hit everything on the head. He's a great athlete. I do think that once he gets into like an NFL room, he can kind of get that NFL like weight room regimen and kind of that meal regimen, kind of bulk up a little bit more. But like you said, all in all, he's still a very, very raw prospect, but definitely has the skills and the mental capacity to play the position. It's just about how long can you give him till he can get on the field.
And based off his athleticism and the tape, Kyle, like you mentioned, I mean, the potential is there. That's through the roof. I mean, linebacker coaches would have to be salivating to get somebody like him.
And this is a deep linebacker class, man. I mean, you got Damon Clark out of LSU as well.
You got both kids from Georgia.
Leo Chanel from Wisconsin is another thumper. He's a good blitzer as well.
Very athletic too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now our next
Duke Marius LaCarpatron out there.
The Key and Peele, baby. The next question we have is from Yam Starch in the Discord chat server. It's going to be explaining the Eagles and Saints trade, so just bear with me. The Philadelphia Eagles have agreed to trade 2 of their 2022 first-round picks, number 16 and 19, to the Saints for New Orleans 2022 first-round pick 18 and a 2023 first-round pick. The Eagles will also receive a 2024 second-round draft pick, plus a 2022 third-round pick and a 2022 seventh-round pick, while sending a 22 sixth-rounder to the Saints. After the trade, the Eagles will still pick twice in this year's first round, and they'll also own the 15th pick. My question is it better to trade back or stick to where we are, Reed?
So that the Saints trade, it's not going to trade too much for us, except for now you may have to just take New Orleans off the trade board. Like, will they trade up again after that? Probably not. I think that kind of shows you that they were looking at somebody who the Chargers are probably looking at. I mean, you could look at a wide receiver maybe that they were looking at, or it's tough to kind of like why did they feel the need to leapfrog the Chargers in that spot? But I think it just goes to show you that this depth in this draft class, you're going to get something good at the back end and not going to have to spend too high of a draft pick to get some talent. And that's kind of where the sweet spot is in this draft. So I don't know. I just think that eliminates a team that we could trade back with, but you weren't really looking at the Saints too much like that anyway. Like they were kind of an outside possibility if they fell in love with one of the quarterbacks, but now I think that's off the table. But is it better to trade back? I would say yes, it still is. You want to trade back in this draft, get an extra second or third round pick and be able to get some starters, players that can come in and contribute.
Yeah, dude, and the funny thing is I couldn't only imagine how many fans are out there of teams saying, oh, yeah, let's trade back because, like, everyone would love to. But the fact is, I don't think anyone is going to be willing to move up.
That means you got to find a team that wants to move up.
Right, exactly. And if Malik Willis is off the board, like, let's just say, because Thor Nystrom, we had a guest on here who talked about there was rumors the Detroit Lions absolutely love Malik Willis and are contemplating on taking him at number 2. And so if that's the case, what player would somebody want to come up and take, right? But there's a lot of depth, especially with tackle, offensive line. And so what player would a team would want to trade multiple assets for in order to move up? And I have a hard time seeing that. I would love to be able to trade back and recoup some more picks, but every day that goes by, dude, I'm finding it harder and harder to believe that it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, I would love to trade back. Recoup maybe like a third round pick. Because we don't have one in this draft, obviously. And obviously the more picks you have in the first 3 rounds, those are like kind of considered like the early contributor rounds. And the more picks you have in those rounds, the better chance you have of getting those type of players to get on the field and contribute for you right away. But yeah, like you said, as far as moving back, you got to find someone that's going to be able to move up with you or trade up to your spot. And people are talking about the big faller might be Kyle Hamilton. Do you really see a team trying to trade up to get a safety at 11? Right. You know what I'm saying? So like the players that are going to be there at 11 aren't really like trade up worthy in that regard. So I would love for that to happen, but I just see them going best player available or best wide receiver on the board at 11. Hopefully, I mean they could go DB as well, but all signs are pointing to wide receiver as of right now.
That's why really, I mean, outside of Malik Willis, your best hope to trade back would be if one of the top two corners fell, one of these edge rushers that's supposed to go in the top 10, or a left tackle. I mean, Charles Cross, Ike Ekwonu, and Evan Neal, they're all good players, and that's a premium position. So you got to hope and pray. But,
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington is really holding their cards close to their vest and they don't even go wide receiver round 1. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they take Ahmad Gardner or even take a lineman there, just based on.
I don't think they're taking a lineman early. I know, but based on Rivera's comments, I know what you mean now, 100%.
Yeah, just because of like where you are and what quality picks are there, like what quality players are there, and you're talking about getting the best bang for your buck. I mean, it's hard to make the argument against it, right? Because you don't want to just take somebody to take them. You want to get the best player available.
Except for, is that player going to be able to come in and contribute immediately right now? When you look at
that's the biggest question. Can you guarantee that he'll be able to come in and start right away? And I think it's easier to do that with a lineman per se at this point, given with the wide receiver room that we have.
I think it would be easier for a wide receiver to come in and contribute than a lineman.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I'd probably say a wide receiver just because. Like we were talking about with Logan Paulson, like they've been bred since like 7 years old in these 77 camps, running routes and stuff like that. But also, if you watch a little clip that they posted with Julie Donaldson, interviewing Rivera, and he pretty much asking like, what are the next steps? And pretty much he pretty much put it out there. We got to fortify the line, and we got to put some playmakers around Carson. So I mean, the offensive line thing is not far off. Right. I just think that they're going to prioritize playmakers over linemen right now because even going back to last year, with all the injuries we had, we were still a pretty graded high line. So I think that with the guys they have now, they feel confident in them.
I will say too, one of my favorite prospects in this draft right now in round 2, possibly round 3, if we traded back and got an extra 3rd-round pick, it's Cole Strange, the guard from Chattanooga. That dude is fun to watch because you look at tackle, Charles Leno, Sam Cosmi. So, and then center's fortified. And then you just sign Norwell. So really the only place on the offensive line might be a right guard if you're not comfortable with Schweitzer. That's the only one you can really see. But do you take a guard at 11 right there if there's a wide receiver or a corner or a particular safety who can come in and help immediately? So it's tough. But Rivera, that's what I was talking. Rivera, like after his comments, they might actually go offensive line fairly high.
Will go crazy if they pick a guard at 11.
I know, but now speaking of the fan base going crazy, they went up in riots. I think late last night, early this morning, that teams are calling to see what's going on with Terry McLaurin to see his availability, right? And I think that quickly got downplayed, got shot right down. But do you have you freaking out a little bit, Hall?
No, not really, because like you said, Rivera already came out and said that nobody's been calling, and if they were, we wouldn't be taking those calls. To me, that says that they have him in the long-term plans. They're behind the closed doors and the back doors, kind of working things out, talking to his peoples. And like everyone said, Terry doesn't seem like that kind of guy that's gonna hold the team hostage or I want top dollar, like top of the market dollar. I just think that he wants a fair deal for the fair type of play he's been putting on the field. So I just, like you said, I just think that Rivera and the franchise has him in his their long-term future plans. And like I said to Jordan, the whole DMV, every Washington Commanders fan all over America and the world will legit start burning stuff down if they don't lock up Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, and I know that I heard some people speculate on if you. I had Daria ask me on Twitter, do you think that them drafting like a Drake London or a wide receiver in the first round would mean anything for Terry's contract and possibly maybe him leaving as a replacement for Terry, right? And I don't think that's the case, Daria. I don't think that at all. And the big reason I think that is because it's somebody like Curtis Samuel. That's a message to them, essentially saying you better get your stuff because there's somebody else here. And I don't think
Brown as well.
Right. I think Miami could honestly take over for Curtis. It's similar skill sets in a way, but not intermediate. More of the long downfield, deep downfield kind of threat, because that's where Miami really specializes in. Curtis is more unique in the way that he can be used as a Deebo Samuel type of gadget wide receiver. But just talking about like a number 2 wide receiver, number 3 wide receiver, I'd be very concerned if I was Curtis Samuel if they drafted one in the first round, because that would be a glaring warning sign. I don't think it has anything to do with Terry McLaurin, dude. Terry McLaurin is his own animal. He's an alien. I want him to retire here.
And Ron, like you talked about, Hall, Ron saying we wouldn't even entertain it if somebody did call. I mean, that just lets you know right there how highly they think of Terry and how much they want to get things done, how important they know he is to this offense and this team in general. That's why he's on the banner. That's why he was one of the players at the name reveal. That's why, it's Terry McLaurin. He's not going anywhere.
I just saw a tweet from Adam Schefter just came across that the Ravens apparently offered Bobby Wagner an $18 million per contract.
And he turned it down.
Yeah, and he went to LA.
I told you.
Which is what I said. Yeah, which is what I said.
Apparently wanted to play in LA. Yeah, he wanted to play in his hometown.
He wanted to stay on the West Coast. He wanted to go to a Super Bowl contender.
That's crazy.
That being said,
I mean, shoot, Ravens with him would be a Super Bowl contender.
Now let's go to
AFC's packed.
I know
they have Rashad Bateman. They're not going anywhere.
Kyle hates him. We gotta find Kyle's Rashad Bateman.
Man, Rashad Bateman was so good. They signed Sammy Watkins to be their number 1 wide receiver. Now let's go to our next question from Scott Hartley. Yeah, exactly. Would you rather always have a mullet haircut or a ponytail haircut, Hall?
What's a ponytail haircut? Like shave the sides and like
just a sick ponytail.
Just a sick, like a slick, clean, the wet, perfect.
I used to have
ponytail.
dreads and I had like a ponytail with those.
Dude, Hall looks so funny with dreads. He had like the little pearls on him.
Guarantee he looked like
puka shells. When he went like this, you could hear him clanging together.
Yeah, I guarantee he looked like what's his face from 8 Mile, for sure.
Mekhi Phifer?
Mekhi Phifer, yeah.
I'm hosting the next shelter battle if anyone wants to come through.
Yeah, not me, buddy. So mullets are like so in right now. Like so many people have them, and it's making a comeback. So I guess that. But think about just having a nice slick back Shawn Michaels in his prime ponytail, or a Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm sorry, not Jean-Claude Van Damme. Steven Seagal, same person almost. And the way that he says Vladimir Putin. that guy gets it, Steven Seagal. So I'm gonna go ponytail. I'm gonna go John Clayton in his prime at the commercial, just like that, baby. Just let it swing and make my fiance pull it.
I feel so bad. Rest in peace to John Clayton, man. I always remember that commercial, the heavy.
That was the
metal
funniest commercial of all time.
It
Like he
really
lived in his
was.
mom's basement and he stood up and had that unexpected ponytail. Like I wish that was real. I wish he really had that.
I always wondered like why Kenny Mayne didn't get more run, like as like a
Kenny
writer.
Mayne's hilarious.
Yeah, as like a
Yeah,
writer for
he's
them
hilarious.
for commercials. I thought he killed it, man. Every single
Dude.
one that he did was so funny.
You
I miss
remember
John
like
Clayton.
It's such a dry sense
was
of
it
humor.
NFL Countdown like on Sundays when he always had like that segment when he did like a funny like kind of like a,
Yeah, he would just go on like a roast joke
yeah.
type thing on a tangent for a minute. Kenny Mayne was
Kenny
hilarious.
Mayne was the man.
He
He's the
really
man.
was.
Whatever happened to that guy?
Now our next question is from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! What's your thoughts on the scandal surrounding Snyder, and do you think this is the smoking gun us fans are looking for, Reed?
So I'm gonna say something that I don't know how many people agree with it, and just hear me out. This is a witch hunt on Dan Snyder, and I want him gone more than anybody. Like I'm right there with you. I would love for Dan Snyder to sell the team, but I just feel like the way that this is happening right now, it ain't it. Like it's almost like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it's like right now they're throwing some pretty wet spaghetti. We need to go with my old original idea. I'm not going to say what it is, but I mean, we could get something to get him out of there. And it's not this. Come on, guys. This is not the smoking gun. There's not enough there. This evidence. It's what evidence right now? You need something like that. But it is going to tarnish his name a little bit more, and eventually that could lead to something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if this is like the smoking gun that we think it is. I mean, I hope it is. I hope that they have evidence, because it's almost embarrassing to a point that you keep running up to the podium with these accusations and there's not enough merit behind them to actually have some substantial change with them. I mean, honestly, it's very embarrassing to do that on a public forum. And now they have the guy's name out there. What, Kevin Friedman is the cat who came out with these allegations, and it's not even like he has firsthand evidence, which we thought that they did. Just hearsay, something that he had heard along the lines, like a game of telephone. Like, oh yeah, let's revoke property because this guy heard it through the telephone vine. Right. Come on, man, this is ridiculous.
I heard Mike Hall made bomb threats. Like he's not going to get arrested now.
No, but honestly, look, Snyder is a terrible person. Obviously, up until this point, we've heard everyone talk about how he treats employees. Obviously, this was a guy who was bullied early on in his life, and when he got an ounce of power and an ounce of stature, he was able to use his whatever happened to him against other people. And it's disgusting the fact they didn't have an HR department so employees could actually go and complain about their issues or have their issues dealt with. They had to eat it. They had to sit there and live with it. And that's honestly, it's unfortunate, but you can't sit here and act like the dude is like Epstein, you know what I mean? Like going around and act like the guy can't be out in public or go to games and stuff like that. I totally understand, but the only thing I need from Snyder is stop making football decisions and obviously stop making a mockery of this team. And I know that you've tried up until this point in the past couple of years of Ron Rivera and company, and I feel for those guys, man. I mean, they're here fighting a battle that they shouldn't have to. They're here fighting a battle against the media with all the negative publicity. Everything they do is getting tarnished because of Snyder. And I feel really bad for them because of all this. And honestly, if I'm Snyder, I would be sending an apology text to Rivera every single day. Like, man, I'm sorry you got to deal with this, dude. Yeah. I'm sorry, bro. I hope you don't want to leave. Like, seriously.
Sorry about my past.
Like, no wonder nobody wants to come work here because everything you do gets tarnished. I'm so glad that we have somebody who's strong enough as a cancer survivor. It's willing to stand up to it and say, look, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of all the negative publicity. And everyone wants to say, well, you signed up for this. Well, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, from a from like a logical standpoint, surviving cancer should make you really weak. You would think, like physically.
I was like, where's he going?
I don't know. But in the next question we have, we're going to end this show with our best questionnaire, Mr. Orange Crush 92. William Jackson III was taken in the first round at pick 24 of the 2016 draft. Should we draft another first-round quarterback if we already have one at the position? Does high draft capital at the position affect your draft decision-making in general, Reed?
I think it can for sure, but I think when it comes to a position like that, like cornerback, like last year we saw whatever we're doing it with our pass defense wasn't it. Now, was that because of the pass rush and all the injuries, or was that just because somebody like William Jackson isn't that good and he was used out of place? I don't know, but if there's an elite prospect like an Ahmad Gardner, cornerback is that position that can really change a defense. Like if you have a lockdown corner, if you have a Darrelle Revis in his prime, a Champ Bailey, a Nnamdi Asomugha, all in their prime, your defenses, they were all on good defenses all the time. Richard Sherman too. I mean, so yeah, I mean, if you can get a Sauce Gardner and you think he's that guy or even a Derek Stingley, if you really think he's that guy, then yeah, I think you can afford to take it. And then you just have 3 good corners and a Benjamin St. Juste. And if there's somebody, you're going to be playing 4 corners a lot anyway, let's just say in today's NFL. So
yeah, and Rivera has talked about before, and I've said this on this podcast many, many times. You have to build your team and be able to compete against your division, right? And this division has a plethora of wide receivers in it. And I have a lot of respect for William Jackson III, Kendall Fuller, and Benjamin St. Juste. But to be able to contend in this division, you're going to have some tall, physical corners that can attack at the point of attack, go get the football, get their hand in their face, and be ready for the competition. A guy like Ahmad Gardner would be obviously a perfect fit for this defense. It makes everything easier for you. I mean, let's just think about it in our history of this franchise. What did Darryl Green do for defensive coordinators on this team? You literally could just leave them alone. You figure out everyone else, teach everyone else up, and let the defense go to work. And so obviously that has a lot of repercussions to it, but I would absolutely love if they went after a corner. I would support it 1,000% just based on where the NFL is headed with all these great wide receivers, and you can always use more high talented cornerbacks on your team. It makes everything easier for your defensive coordinator, and that's what I'm most excited about if we were to go get somebody that's a strap up, because if you're going best player available and this is a player that's plug and play, you know exactly how to use him, he can fit in your team, and it's going to make everything easier for you, go right ahead, pull the trigger.
Yeah, obviously I've been the biggest go receiver, get one of these high end talented wide receivers at 11, get these first round guys. Obviously, because you draft him in the first round doesn't mean he's going to be a baller wide receiver. Look at Josh Doxson. But the trend lately has been you take a guy in the first round that's a receiver of high regard in college, more than likely he's going to pan out in the NFL sooner rather than later. Look at Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, guys like that. But honestly, if Ahmad Gardner was there, I do love Sauce Gardner. I would be kind of salty they didn't go receiver at 11. But I can understand that because, like you guys said, it's becoming a passing league. And how do you counter a passing league with pass defenders? And he's obviously, in my opinion, the best pass defender in this draft. I was a huge Derek Stingley guy in 2019, his freshman year. I watched a lot of LSU games that year, but since then I'm kind of falling off on him just because the whole injury concerns. But yeah, if they went cornerback at 11, Sauce Gardner, I would not be mad. And then double back and got a receiver at 47, I think it is we picked. I wouldn't be mad at that, but at the same time, I want a first-round talent wide receiver.
Now, the second part to his question, I think that we all kind of glossed over, was does high draft capital at the position affect your decision-making in general? And
that's what I said. I said, no, if you look at the defensive line,
exactly.
We invested a lot in the defensive line.
So think about it that way. If the best player available is a defensive tackle, are you going to pull the trigger there? Because obviously, does that have to do with your decision making?
It does depend though. Because if you look at it like a cornerback, if you have 3 good cornerbacks, they can all be on the field at the same time. If you have 2 good left tackles, 3-4 good tackles that are all top of the line should be starting, then it's kind of like offensive tackles. Then it's kind of like, okay, well, what was the point of that? Like if your offensive lineman's going to be subbing in your first round pick, then it's kind of, but like a corner, you can get corners, you can get receivers on the field as often as you want, however you see fit.
Yeah, so. And I don't think the draft capital at this position really does matter, OC, given the fact that this is a passing league, and the more cornerbacks you can have strap up, the better you will be at success. Because we talked about Landon Collins and Chad Muma, Troy Anderson. How many times you're going to be in 3 linebacker sets based on what these offenses want to do, putting a bunch of wide receivers out. Having more quality cornerbacks will only help you in the long run. Lord knows what's going to happen in week 12 when you're up by a touchdown. You got to stop these guys. Is Ahmad Gardner on the field with 2 minutes left in the game going to help you against Devontae Smith? And I think he will.
Yeah, I mean, just look inside the division right now. You got Brian Daboll coming to the Giants, and you see what he did in Buffalo. He loves to spread the offense out. 3-4 wide receivers at a time. Really, like you said, a lot of cornerbacks in the field, a lot of try to get a lot of mismatches. You go down to Dallas, obviously Kellen Moore. They're not really stacked up a wide receiver anymore, but I'm going to assume They're
Oh, got
probably going
good
to draft
ones.
another. Yeah, they still
Right.
got some good ones. I'm going to assume they're probably going to draft a wide receiver at some point in this draft that's going to get on the field this year. And then obviously look at Philly.
If they get
And
Traylon
where,
Burks, I'm gonna be pissed.
yeah, look at they're trying to do up in Philly. Like they got Devontae Smith, who's a speedster, and then they're going to probably more than likely add some more guys in this draft as well. So the more cornerbacks and the more defenders you can get on the field at a time, obviously it's going to bode well for your team. So like you guys said, if you have like a cornerback or receiver, then you can get them on the field at any time. If you're drafting like a linebacker or a lineman or something like that at that position, it's kind of like, are you going to put him on the field now or are you going to like let him sit? And normally when you draft someone that high, you don't let him sit.
Yeah, dude. They take Traylon Burks or Jamison Williams. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. I can understand why they do it, but obviously they're in the position that they're in, and that would obviously do well for them. It just make me mad. But that being said, all right, everybody, thank you for so much for tuning into this episode. I'm Kyle.
Hall, aka Black Scrubs.
Yeah, and I'm old dad.
A.K.A. Wheels. And on Friday, we're going to have our first mock draft. So that's when we're going to do the first round. And so we're going to be asking you guys for your submissions, just like we were last year. Where you guys sent, we're going to tell you which pick that you have, which team that you have. And what we'll have those picks taken so you know who's available at your pick. You make a 30-second video. Tell us who do you want that team to take right there and why. And then we'll submit it for the show on Friday. But you got to get your videos in ASAP. You got to let me know what pick you want because we can slide you in and make sure to fill out that order for you guys based on what you want. I know everyone's going to be wanting to take the Commanders there at some point, but we just want to hear from you guys and how you look at the draft. You know what I'm saying? And of course, as always, make sure you guys are commenting on the YouTube page because you guys make us laugh. I mean, look, Reed talked about it earlier, just like you guys' comments about him talking about being thick. You know, it's funny. We like to hear what you guys say, and it's always a blast. And obviously, if it wasn't for you guys commenting about Hall's microphone, we wouldn't have made it such a point to get it done. So I really do appreciate you guys tuning in.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on Friday. Be safe and have fun. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched the BurgundyZone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!